Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi. Part 1. Narendra Damodardas Modi, born the 17th of September 1950, is an Indian politician serving as the 14th and current Prime Minister of India since 2014. Modi was the Chief Minister of Gujarat from 2001 to 2014 and is the Member of Parliament from Varanasi. He is a member of the Bharatiya Janata Party and of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, a right-wing Hindu nationalist paramilitary volunteer organization. He is the longest-serving Prime Minister from outside the Indian National Congress. Modi was born and raised in Vadnagar in northeastern Gujarat, where he completed his secondary education. He was introduced to the RSS at age 8. He has reminisced about helping out after school at his father's tea stall at the Vadnagar railway station. At age 18, Modi was married to Jashodaben Chemelal Modi, whom he abandoned soon after. He first publicly acknowledged her as his wife more than 4 decades later, when required to do so by Indian law, but has made no contact with her since. Modi has asserted he had traveled in northern India for 2 years after leaving his parental home, visiting a number of religious centers, but few details of his travels have emerged. Upon his return to Gujarat in 1971, he became a full-time worker for the RSS. After the state of emergency was declared by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi in 1975, Modi went into hiding. The RSS assigned him to the BJP in 1985, and he held several positions within the party hierarchy until 2001, rising to the rank of General Secretary. Modi was appointed Chief Minister of Gujarat in 2001 due to Keshubhai Patel's failing health and poor public image following the earthquake in Bhuj. Modi was elected to the Legislative Assembly soon after. His administration has been considered complicit in the 2002 Gujarat riots, in which 1,044 people were killed, 3/4 of whom were Muslim, or otherwise criticized for its management of the crisis. A special investigation team appointed by the Supreme Court of India found no evidence to initiate prosecution proceedings against Modi personally, while his policies as chief minister, credited with encouraging economic growth, have received praise. His administration was criticized for failing to significantly improve health, poverty, and education indices in the state. Modi led the BJP in the 2014 general election, which gave the party a majority in the lower house of Indian Parliament, the Lok Sabha, the first time for any single party since 1984. Modi's administration has tried to raise foreign direct investment in the Indian economy and reduce spending on healthcare, education, and social welfare programs. Modi centralized power by abolishing the Planning Commission and replacing it with the NITI Aayog. He began a high-profile sanitation campaign, controversially initiated a demonetization of high-denomination banknotes and a transformation of the taxation regime, and weakened or abolished environmental and labor laws. He oversaw the country's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. As Prime Minister, Modi has received consistently high approval ratings. Under Modi's tenure, India has experienced democratic backsliding. Following his party's victory in the 2019 general election, his administration revoked the special status of Jammu and Kashmir, introduced the Citizenship Amendment Act and 3 controversial farm laws, which prompted widespread protests and sit-ins across the country, resulting in a formal repeal of the latter. Described as engineering a political realignment towards right-wing politics, Modi remains a figure of controversy domestically and internationally over his Hindu nationalist beliefs and his handling of the 2002 Gujarat riots, cited as evidence of an exclusionary social agenda. Narendra Damodardas Modi was born on the 17th of September 1950 to a Gujarati Hindu family of grocers in Vadnagar, Mehsana district, Bombay state. He was the third of 6 children born to Damodardas Mulchand Modi and Hariban Modi. Modi's family belonged to the Mod Ganchai Tele community, which is categorized as another backward class by the Indian government. Modi had only infrequently spoken of his family background during his 13 years as Chief Minister of Gujarat. In the run-up to the 2014 national elections, he began to regularly draw attention to his low-ranking social origins and to having to work as a child in his father's tea shop on the Vadnagar railway station platform, a description that the evidence of neighbors does not entirely corroborate. Modi completed his higher secondary education in Vadnagar in 1967, where teachers described him as an average student and a keen gifted debater with interest in theater. Modi preferred playing larger-than-life characters in theatrical productions, which has influenced his political image. When 8 years old, Modi was introduced to the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh and began attending its local shakas. There, Modi met Lakshman Rao Inamdar, popularly known as Vakil Saheb, who inducted him as a Bal Swayamsevak in the RSS and became his political mentor. While Modi was training with the RSS, he also met Vasant Gajendrakar and Nathal Jagda, Bharatiya Jana Sangh leaders who were founding members of the BJP's Gujarat unit in 1980. In a custom traditional to Narendra Modi's caste, his family arranged a betrothal to a girl, Jashodaben Chimelal Modi, leading to their marriage when she was 17 and he was 18. Soon afterwards, he abandoned his bride and left home, never divorcing her, but the marriage remaining unmentioned in Modi's public pronouncements for many decades. In April 2014, shortly before the national elections that swept him to power, Modi publicly affirmed that he was married and his spouse was Jashodaben. The couple has remained married, but estranged. Reportedly, their marriage was never consummated, and he kept it a secret because otherwise he could not have become a pracharak in the Puritan Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. Modi spent the ensuing 2 years traveling across northern and northeastern India, though few details of where he went have emerged. In interviews, Modi has described visiting Hindu ashrams founded by Swami Vivekananda, the Balar Math near Kolkata, followed by the Advaita Ashrama in Almora and the Ramakrishna Mission in Rajkot. Modi remained only a short time at each, since he lacked the required college education. Vivekananda has been described as a large influence in Modi's life. In the early summer of 1968, Modi reached the Balar Math but was turned away, after which Modi wandered through Calcutta, West Bengal and Assam, stopping in Siliguri and Guwahati. Modi then went to the Ramakrishna Ashram in Almora, where he was again rejected, before traveling back to Gujarat via Delhi and Rajasthan in 1968-69. Sometime in late 1969 or early 1970, Modi returned to Vadnagar for a brief visit before leaving again for Ahmedabad. There, Modi lived with his uncle, working in the latter's canteen at the Gujarat State Road Transport Corporation. In Ahmedabad, Modi renewed his acquaintance with Inamdar, who was based at the Hedgewar Bappan in the city. Modi's first known political activity as an adult was in 1971 when he, as per his remarks, joined a Jana Sangh Satyagraha in Delhi led by Atal Bihari Vajpayee to enlist for the battlefield during the Bangladesh Liberation War. The Indira Gandhi-led central government disallowed open support for the Mukti Bahini, and Modi says he was put in Tihar jail for a short period. After the Indo-Pakistani War of 1971, he stopped working for his uncle and became a full-time pracharak for the RSS, working under Inamdar. Shortly before the war, Modi took part in a non-violent protest against the Indian government in New Delhi, for which he was arrested. This has been cited as a reason for Inamdar electing to mentor him. Many years later, Modi would co-author a biography of Inamdar, published in 2001. Modi's claim that he was part of a satyagraha led to a political war. Applications were filed with the PMO under the RTI Act seeking details of his arrest. In reply, the PMO claimed that it maintains official records on Modi only since he took charge as the Prime Minister of India in 2014. Despite this claim, the official website of the PMO contains specific information about Modi which dates back to the 1950s. In 1978, Modi received a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science from. In June 1975, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi declared a state of emergency in India, which lasted until 1977. During this period, known as the emergency, many of her political opponents were jailed and opposition groups were banned. Modi was appointed General Secretary of the Gujarat Lok Sangharsh Samiti, an RSS committee coordinating opposition to the emergency in Gujarat. Shortly afterwards, the RSS was banned. Modi was forced to go underground in Gujarat and frequently traveled in disguise to avoid arrest. He became involved in printing pamphlets opposing the government, sending them to Delhi and organizing demonstrations. Modi was also involved with creating a network of safe houses for individuals wanted by the government and in raising funds for political refugees and activists. During this period, Modi wrote a book in Gujarati, Sangharsh Ma Gujarat, describing events during the emergency. Among the people he met in this role was trade unionist and socialist activist George Fernandez, as well as several other national political figures. In his travels during the emergency, Modi was often forced to move in disguise, once dressing as a monk and once as a Sikh. Modi became an RSS Sambhag Pracharak in 1978, overseeing RSS activities in the areas of Surat and Vadodara. And in 1979 he went to work for the RSS in Delhi, where he was put to work researching and writing the RSS's version of the history of the emergency. He returned to Gujarat a short while later and was assigned by the RSS to the BJP in 1985. In 1987, Modi helped organize the BJP's campaign in the Ahmedabad municipal election, which the BJP won comfortably. Modi's planning has been described as the reason for that result by biographers. After L.K. Advani became president of the BJP in 1986, the RSS decided to place its members in important positions within the BJP. Modi's work during the Ahmedabad election led to his selection for this role, and Modi was elected organizing secretary of the BJP's Gujarat unit later in 1987. Modi rose within the party and was named a member of the BJP's National Election Committee in 1990, helping organize L.K. Advani's 1990 Ram Rath Yatra in 1990 and Murli Manohar Joshi's 1991-92 Ekta Yatra. However, he took a brief break from politics in 1992, instead establishing a school in Ahmedabad. Friction with Shankar Sen Vaghela, a BJP MP from Gujarat at the time, also played a part in this decision. Modi returned to electoral politics in 1994, partly at the insistence of Advani, and as party secretary. Modi's electoral strategy was considered central to the BJP victory in the 1995 state assembly elections. In November of that year, Modi was appointed BJP National Secretary and transferred to New Delhi, where he assumed responsibility for party activities in Haryana and Himachal Pradesh. The following year, Shankar Sen Vaghela, a prominent BJP leader from Gujarat, defected to the Indian National Congress after losing his parliamentary seat in the Lok Sabha elections. Modi, on the selection committee for the 1998 assembly elections in Gujarat, favored supporters of BJP leader Keshubhai Patel over those supporting Vaghela to end factional division in the party. His strategy was credited as key to the BJP winning an overall majority in the 1998 elections, and Modi was promoted to BJP General Secretary in May of that year. In 2001, Keshubhai Patel's health was failing and the BJP lost a few state assembly seats in by-elections. Allegations of abuse of power, corruption and poor administration were made, and Patel's standing had been damaged by his administration's handling of the earthquake in Bhuj in 2001. The BJP national leadership sought a new candidate for the chief ministership, and Modi, who had expressed misgivings about Patel's administration, was chosen as a replacement. Although BJP leader L.K. Advani did not want to ostracize Patel and was concerned about Modi's lack of experience in government, Modi declined an offer to be Patel's deputy chief minister, telling Advani and Atal Bihari Vajpayee that he was going to be fully responsible for Gujarat or not at all. On the 3rd of October 2001, he replaced Patel as chief minister of Gujarat, with the responsibility of preparing the BJP for the December 2002 elections. Modi was sworn in as chief minister on the 7th of October 2001 and entered the Gujarat state legislature on the 24th of February 2002 by winning a by-election to the Rajkot 2 constituency, defeating Ashwin Mehta of the Inc. On the 27th of February 2002, a train with several hundred passengers burned near Godhra, killing approximately 60 people. The train carried a large number of Hindu pilgrims returning from Ayodhya after a religious ceremony at the site of the demolished Babri Masjid. In making a public statement after the incident, Modi declared it a terrorist attack planned and orchestrated by local Muslims. The next day, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad called for a ban across the state. Riots began during the ban, and anti-Muslim violence spread through Gujarat. The government's decision to move the bodies of the train victims from Godhra to Ahmedabad further inflamed the violence. The state government stated later that 790 Muslims and 254 Hindus were killed. Independent sources put the death toll at over 2,000. The vast majority Muslims, approximately 150,000 people, were driven to refugee camps. Numerous women and children were among the victims. The violence included mass rapes and mutilations of women. The government of Gujarat itself is generally considered by scholars to have been complicit in the riots, and has otherwise received heavy criticism for its handling of the situation. Several scholars have described the violence as a pogrom, while others have called it an example of state terrorism. Summarizing academic views on the subject, Martha Nussbaum said, "There is by now a broad consensus that the Gujarat violence was a form of ethnic cleansing, that in many ways it was premeditated, and that it was carried out with the complicity of the state government and officers of the law." The Modi government imposed a curfew in 26 major cities, issued shoot-at-sight orders, and called for the army to patrol the streets, but was unable to prevent the violence from escalating. The president of the state unit of the BJP expressed support for the ban, despite such actions being illegal at the time. State officials later prevented riot victims from leaving the refugee camps, and the camps were often unable to meet the needs of those living there. Muslim victims of the riots were subject to further discrimination when the state government announced that compensation for Muslim victims would be half of that offered to Hindus. Although this decision was later reversed after the issue was taken to court, During the riots, police officers often did not intervene in situations where they were able. Modi's personal involvement in the 2002 events has continued to be debated. During the riots, Modi said that what is happening is a chain of action and reaction. Later in 2002, Modi said the way in which he had handled the media was his only regret regarding the episode. In March 2008, the Supreme Court reopened several cases related to the 2002 riots, including that of the Gulbarg Society massacre, and established a special investigation team to look into the issue. In response to a petition from Zakia Jaffrey, in April 2009, the court also asked the SIT to investigate the issue of Modi's complicity in the killings. The SIT questioned Modi in March 2010. In May, it presented to the court a report finding no evidence against him. In July 2011, the court-appointed amicus curiae Raju Ramachandran submitted his final report to the court. Contrary to the SIT's position, he said that Modi could be prosecuted based on the available evidence. The Supreme Court gave the matter to the Magistrates' Court. The SIT examined Ramachandran's report, and in March 2012 submitted its final report, asking for the case to be closed. Zakia Jaffrey filed a protest petition in response. In December 2013, the Magistrates' Court rejected the protest petition, accepting the SIT's finding that there was no evidence against the Chief Minister. In 2022, the Supreme Court dismissed a petition by Zakia Jaffrey wherein she challenged the clean chit given to the Modi in the riots by the Special Investigation Team, and upheld previous rulings that no evidence was found against him. In the aftermath of the violence, there were widespread calls for Modi to resign as chief minister from within and outside the state, including from leaders of the Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam and the Telugu Desam Party, and opposition parties stalled parliament over the issue. Modi submitted his resignation at the April 2002 BJP National Executive meeting in Goa, but it was not accepted, despite opposition from the election commissioner, who said that a number of voters were still. During the run-up to the 2007 Gujarat Legislative Assembly election and the 2009 Indian general election, the BJP intensified its rhetoric on terrorism. Modi criticized Prime Minister Manmohan Singh for his reluctance to revive anti-terror legislation such as the 2002 Prevention of Terrorism Act. In 2007, Modi authored Karmayog, a 101-page booklet discussing manual scavenging. In it, Modi argued that scavenging was a spiritual experience for Valmiks, a subcaste of Dalits. However, this book was not circulated at that time because of the election code of conduct. After the November 2008 Mumbai attacks, the Gujarat government authorized the deployment of 30 high-speed boats for coastal surveillance. In July 2007, Modi completed 2,063 consecutive days as Chief Minister of Gujarat, making him the longest-serving holder of that post. The BJP won 122 of 182 state assembly seats in that year's election. Despite the BJP's shift away from explicit Hindutva, Modi's election campaign in 2007 and 2012 contained elements of Hindu nationalism. Modi only attended Hindu religious ceremony and had prominent associations with Hindu religious leaders. During his 2012 campaign, he twice refused to wear articles of clothing gifted by Muslim leaders. He did, however, maintain relations with Dawudi Bohra. His campaign included references to issues known to cause religious polarization, including to Afzal Guru and the killing of Sohrabuddin Sheikh. The BJP did not nominate any Muslim candidates for the assembly election of 2012. During the 2012 campaign, Modi attempted to identify himself with the state of Gujarat, a strategy similar to that used by Indira Gandhi during the emergency, and projected himself as protecting Gujarat against persecution by the rest of India. While campaigning for the 2012 Gujarat Legislative Assembly elections, Modi made extensive use of holograms and other technologies, allowing him to reach a large number of people, something he would repeat in the 2014 general election. Modi won the constituency of Maninagar, defeating Shweta of the Ink. The BJP won 115 of the 182 seats, continuing its majority during his tenure. After his election as Prime Minister, Modi resigned as the Chief Minister and as an MLA from Maninagar. Anandiben Patel succeeded him as the Chief Minister. As Chief Minister, Modi favored privatization and small government, which was at odds with the philosophy of the RSS, usually described as anti-privatization and anti-globalization. His policies during his second term have been credited with reducing corruption in the state. He established financial and technology parks in Gujarat, and during the 2007 Vibrant Gujarat Summit, real estate investment deals worth 6.6 trillion rupees were signed. The governments led by Patel and Modi supported NGOs and communities in the creation of groundwater conservation projects. By December 2008, 500,000 structures had been built, of which 113,738 were check dams, which helped recharge the aquifers beneath them. 60 of the 112 tehsils which had depleted the water table in 2004 had regained their normal groundwater levels by 2010. As a result, the state's production of genetically modified cotton increased to become the largest in India. The boom in cotton production and its semi-arid land use led to Gujarat's agricultural sector growing at an average rate of 9.6% from 2001 to 2007. Public irrigation measures in central and southern Gujarat, such as the Sardar Sarovar Dam, were less successful. The Sardar Sarovar project only irrigated 6% of the area intended. In 2008, Modi offered land in Gujarat to Tata Motors to set up a plant manufacturing the nano after a popular agitation had forced the company to move out of West Bengal. Several other companies followed the Tata to Gujarat. The Modi government finished the process of bringing electricity to every village in Gujarat that its predecessor had almost completed. Modi significantly changed the state's system of power distribution, greatly impacting farmers. Gujarat expanded the Jayata Gram Yojana scheme, in which agricultural electricity was separated from other rural electricity. The agricultural electricity was rationed to fit scheduled irrigation demands, reducing its cost. Although early protests by farmers ended when those who benefited found that their electricity supply had stabilized. According to an assessment study, corporations and large farmers benefited from the policy at the expense of small farmers and laborers. A contentious debate surrounds the assessment of Gujarat's economic development during Modi's tenure as chief minister. The state's GDP growth rate averaged 10% during Modi's tenure, a value similar to other highly industrialized states and above that of the country as a whole. Gujarat also had a high rate of economic growth in the 1990s. Before Modi took office, and some scholars have stated that growth did not much accelerate during Modi's tenure. Under Modi, Gujarat topped the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business rankings among Indian states for 2 consecutive years. In 2013, Gujarat was ranked first among Indian states for economic freedom by a report measuring governance, growth, citizens' rights, and labor and business regulation among the country's 20 largest states. In the later years of Modi's government, Gujarat's economic growth was frequently used as an argument to counter allegations of communalism. Tax breaks for businesses were easier to obtain in Gujarat than in other states, as was land. Modi's policies to make Gujarat attractive for investment included the creation of special economic zones, where labor laws were greatly weakened. Despite its growth rate, Gujarat had a relatively poor record on human development, poverty relief, nutrition, and education during Modi's tenure. In 2013, Gujarat ranked 13th in the country with respect to rates of poverty and 21st in education. Nearly 45% of children under 5 were underweight, and 23% were undernourished, putting the state in the alarming category on the India State Hunger Index. A study by UNICEF and the Indian government found that Gujarat under Modi had a poor record with respect to immunization in children. Over the decade from 2001 to 2011, Gujarat did not change its position relative to the rest of the country with respect to poverty and female literacy, remaining near the median of the 29 Indian states. It showed a marginal improvement in rates of infant mortality, and its position with respect to individual consumption declined. With respect to the quality of education in government schools, the state ranked below many Indian states. The social policies of the government generally did not benefit Muslims, Dalits, and Adivasis, and generally increased social inequalities. Development in Gujarat was generally limited to the urban middle class, and citizens in rural areas or from lower castes were increasingly marginalized. In 2013, the state ranked 10th of 21 Indian states in the Human Development Index. Under Modi, the state government spent less than the national average on education and healthcare. In September 2013, Modi was named the BJP's candidate for Prime Minister ahead of the 2014 Lok Sabha election. Several BJP leaders expressed opposition to Modi's candidature, including BJP founding member L.K. Advani, who cited concern with leaders who were concerned with their personal agendas. Modi played a dominant role in the BJP's election campaign. Several people who voted for the BJP stated that if Modi had not been the prime ministerial candidate, they would have voted for another party. The focus on Modi as an individual was unusual for a BJP election campaign. The election was described as a referendum on Narendra Modi. Modi meets his mother after winning the 2014 elections. During the campaign, Modi focused on the corruption scandals under the previous Inc. government and played on his image as a politician who had created a high rate of GDP growth in Gujarat. Modi projected himself as a person who could bring about development, without focus on any specific policies. His message found support among young Indians and among middle-class citizens. The BJP under Modi was able to downplay concerns about the protection of religious minorities and Modi's commitment to secularism, areas in which he had previously received criticism. Prior to the election, Modi's image in the media had centered around his role in the 2002 Gujarat riots. But during the campaign, the BJP was able to shift this to a focus on Modi's neoliberal ideology and the Gujarat model of development. The BJP sought to identify itself with political leaders known to have opposed Hindu nationalism, including B.R. Ambedkar, Subhas Chandra Bose, and Ram Manohar Lohia. Hindutva remained a part of the campaign. BJP leaders used rhetoric based on Hindutva in several states. Communal tensions were played upon especially in Uttar Pradesh and the states of northeast India. A proposal for the controversial Uniform Civil Code was a part of the BJP's election manifesto. The BJP's campaign was assisted by its wide influence in the media. Modi's campaign blitz cost around 50 billion rupees, and the BJP received extensive financial support from corporate donors. In addition to more conventional campaign methods, Modi made extensive use of social media and addressed more than 1,000 rallies via hologram appearances. The BJP won 31% of the vote and more than doubled its tally in the Lok Sabha to 282, becoming the first party to win a majority of seats on its own since 1984. Voter dissatisfaction with the INC, as well as with regional parties in North India, was another reason for the success of the BJP, as was the support from the RSS. In states such as Uttar Pradesh, in which the BJP performed well, it drew exceptionally high support from upper caste Hindus. Although the 10% of Muslim votes won was more than it had won before, it performed particularly well in parts of the country that had recently experienced violence between Hindus and Muslims. The magnitude of the BJP's victory led many commentators to say that the election constituted a political realignment away from Progressive Party and towards the right wing. Modi's tweet announcing his victory was described as being emblematic of the political realignment away from a secular, socialist state towards capitalism and Hindu cultural nationalism. Modi himself was a candidate for the Lok Sabha in two constituencies, Varanasi and Vadodara. He won in both constituencies, defeating Aam Aadmi Party leader Arvind Kejriwal in Varanasi by 371,784 votes and Madhusudan Mistry of the INC in Vadodara by 570,128 votes. Modi, who was unanimously elected leader of the BJP, was appointed Prime Minister by India's President. To comply with the law that an MP cannot represent more than one constituency, he vacated the Vadodara seat. On the 13th of October 2018, Modi was named the BJP candidate for Prime Minister for the 2019 general election. The chief campaigner for the party was BJP's President Amit Shah. Modi launched the Main by Chaukadar campaign ahead of the general election against Chaukadar Chor Hai campaign slogan of INC. In 2018, the Telugu Desam party split from the NDA over the matter of special status for Andhra Pradesh. The campaign was started by Amit Shah on the 8th of April 2019. In the campaign, Modi was targeted by the opposition on corruption allegations over Rafale deal with France government. Highlighting this controversy, the campaign Chaukadar Chor Hai was started, which was contrary to Main by Chaukadar's slogan. Modi made defense and national security among the foremost topics for the election campaign, especially after Pulwama attack, and the retaliatory attack of Balakot airstrike was counted as an achievement of the Modi administration. Other topics in the campaign were development and good foreign relations in the first premiership. Modi contested the Lok Sabha elections as a candidate from Varanasi. He won the seat by defeating Shalini Yadav of the Samajwadi Party, who fought on SPBSP alliance by a margin of 479,505 votes. Modi was unanimously appointed the Prime Minister for a second time by the National Democratic Alliance, after the alliance won the election for the second time by securing 353 seats in the Lok Sabha, with the BJP alone won 303 seats. After the Bharatiya Janata Party-led National Democratic Alliance won a landslide in the 2014 Lok Sabha election, Modi was sworn in as the Prime Minister of India on the 26th of May 2014. He became the first Prime Minister born after India's independence from the British Empire in 1947. Modi started his second term after the National Democratic Alliance won again in the 2019 Lok Sabha election. On the 6th of December 2020, Modi became the fourth longest-serving Prime Minister of India and the longest-serving non-Congress Prime Minister. Modi's first year as Prime Minister saw significant centralization of power, initially lacking a majority in the Rajya Sabha, or upper house of Indian Parliament. Modi passed a number of ordinances to enact his policies, leading to further centralization of power. The government also passed a bill increasing the control that it had over the appointment of judges and reducing that of the judiciary. In December 2014, Modi abolished the Planning Commission, replacing it with the National Institution for Transforming India, or NITI Aayog. The move had the effect of concentrating the power previously with the Planning Commission in the person of the Prime Minister. The Planning Commission had received heavy criticism in previous years for creating inefficiency in the government and of not filling its role of improving social welfare. However, since the economic liberalization of the 1990s, it had been the major government body responsible for measures related to social justice. The Modi government launched investigations by the Intelligence Bureau against numerous civil society organizations and foreign non-governmental organizations in the first year of the administration. The investigations, on the grounds that these organizations were slowing economic growth, was criticized as a witch hunt. International humanitarian aid organization Médecins Sans Frontières was among the groups that were put under pressure. Other organizations affected included the Sierra Club and Avaz. Cases of sedition were filed against individuals criticizing the government. This led to discontent within the BJP regarding Modi's style of functioning and drew comparisons to the governing style of Indira Gandhi. Modi repealed 1,200 obsolete laws in first 3 years as Prime Minister. A total of 1,301 such laws had been repealed by previous governments over a span of 64 years. Modi also launched the Digital India program, with the goal of ensuring that government services are available electronically, building infrastructure to provide high-speed internet access to rural areas, boosting manufacturing of electronic goods in the country, and promoting digital literacy. In 2019, a law was passed to reserve 10% of educational admission in government jobs for economically disadvantaged individuals. The Indian government launched the Ujjwala scheme in 2016 to provide free LPG connections to rural households. The scheme led to an additional 24% of Indian households having access to LPG in 2019 as compared to 2014. In 2022, the government eliminated subsidies for LPG for all citizens except those covered by the Ujjwala program. The activities of a number of Hindu nationalist organizations increased in scope after Modi's election as Prime Minister, sometimes with the support of the government. These activities included a Hindu religious conversion program, a campaign against the alleged Islamic practice of love jihad, and attempts to celebrate Natharam gods. The assassin of Mahatma Gandhi by members of the right-wing Hindu Mahasabha. Officials in the government, including the Home Minister, defended the conversion programs. Links between the BJP and the RSS grew stronger under Modi. The RSS provided organizational support to the BJP's electoral campaigns, while the Modi administration appointed a number of individuals affiliated with the RSS to prominent government positions. In 2014, Yellapragada Sudarshan Rao, who had previously been associated with the RSS, became the chairperson of the Indian Council of Historical Research. Historians and former members of the ICHR, including those sympathetic to the BJP, questioned his credentials as a historian and stated that the appointment was part of an agenda of cultural nationalism. Over its first term, the Modi administration appointed other RSS members to lead university and research institutions, and recruitment of faculty members favoring the RSS increased. Scholars Nandini Sundar and Karan Badi write that many of these appointees did not possess the qualifications for their positions. The Modi administration also made numerous changes in government-approved history textbooks. These changes to emphasizing the role of Jawaharlal Nehru and glorifying that of Modi himself, while also portraying Indian society as harmonious, without conflict or inequity. The Modi administration passed a citizenship law in 2019 which provided a pathway to Indian citizenship for persecuted religious minorities from Afghanistan, Bangladesh and Pakistan who are Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, Parsis or Christians. The law does not grant such eligibility to Muslims. This was first time religion had been overtly used as a criterion for citizenship under Indian law. It attracted global criticism and sparked widespread protests that were halted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Counter-demonstrations against the protests developed into the 2020 Delhi riots, caused chiefly by Hindu mobs attacking Muslims. Of the 53 people killed, 2/3 were Muslim. On the 5th of August 2020, Modi visited Ayodhya after the Supreme Court in 2019 ordered a contested land in Ayodhya to be handed over to a trust to build the Hindu temple and ordered the government to give alternate 5-acre land to Sunni Waqf Board for the purpose of building a mosque. He became the first prime minister to visit Ram Janmabhoomi in Hanuman Garhi. Soon after Modi returned to power in 2019, he took 3 actions long called for by the RSS. The practice of triple talaq was made illegal and a punishable act from the 1st of August 2019. The administration scrapped Article 370 of the Indian Constitution, which granted autonomy to Jammu and Kashmir, and also abrogated its statehood, reorganizing it into 2 union territories, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. The region was placed under a lockdown with internet services suspended. Services were not completely restored until February 2021. Thousands of people, including hundreds of political leaders, were detained. The Supreme Court did not hear constitutional challenges to the reorganization or the Citizenship Amendment Act. Addy and Sundar described this as an example of the subversion of the Supreme Court and other major institutions, wherein they were filled with appointees favoring the BJP. The economic policies of Modi's government focused on privatization and liberalization of the economy. Based on a neoliberal framework, Modi liberalized India's foreign direct investment policies, allowing more foreign investment in several industries, including in defense and the railways. Other proposed reforms included making it harder for workers to form unions and easier for employers to hire and fire them. Some of these proposals were dropped after protests. The reforms drew strong opposition from unions. On the 2nd of September 2015, 11 of the country's largest unions went on strike, including one affiliated with the BJP. The Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, a constituent of the Sangh Parivar, stated that the underlying motivation of labor reforms favored corporations over laborers. The funds dedicated to poverty reduction programs and social welfare measures were greatly decreased by the Modi administration. The money spent on social programs declined from 14.6% of GDP during the Congress government to 12.6% during Modi's first year in office, while spending on health and family welfare declined by 15%. The government also lowered corporate taxes, abolished the wealth tax, increased sales taxes, and reduced customs duties on gold and jewelry. In October 2014, the Modi government deregulated diesel prices. Over Modi's first term, the government reduced spending on education as share of the budget. Over 5 years, education spending dropped from 0.7% of GDP to 0.5%. The percentage of the budget spent on children's nutrition, education, health, and associated programs was reduced by nearly half by the Modi administration between 2014 and 2022. In September 2014, Modi introduced the Make in India initiative to encourage foreign companies to manufacture products in India, with the goal of turning the country into a global manufacturing hub. Supporters of economic liberalization supported the initiative, while critics argued it would allow foreign corporations to capture a greater share of the Indian market. Modi's administration passed a land reform bill that allowed it to acquire private agricultural land without conducting a social impact assessment, and without the consent of the farmers who owned it. The bill was passed via an executive order after it faced opposition in parliament, but was eventually allowed to lapse. Modi's government put in place the Goods and Services Tax, the biggest tax reform in the country since independence. It subsumed around 17 different taxes and became effective from the 1st of July 2017. Soon we will publish Part 2.